Welcome back to the show, everybody. It's time for another episode of the Agency Freedom Podcast. We help insurance professionals move from captivity to freedom. My guest for this episode is an accomplished, long-time serial entrepreneur. He and I have been dancing around each other's schedules for the last few months, and we're finally here. I am thrilled to be able to bring to you this conversation with a guy who's not from the insurance industry, but he does quite a bit of work with entrepreneurs and sales professionals. Mr. Nathan Hirsch, thank you so much for being here, man.
Yeah, James, thanks for having me. I think I rescheduled on you twice, you rescheduled on me twice. Life happens, but I'm glad
Yeah.
we made it happen.
This conversation is worth the wait. I am confident. Looking at your LinkedIn, it tells me that you are a man of many talents and interest, and they all kind of flow in the same direction. I love it when I get to meet someone who's doing multiple things that are complementary, where the river has a flow in a certain direction. It's like you decided to put several boats in the river heading in about the same direction. We'll talk about that, of course, as we get into the meat and potatoes of the episode. But I'd love to hear first about Nathan the person. Tell me about your family backstory, how you got to this point in your career, whatever you want to share. We'd love to hear some of the Nathan story.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll also add, I wasn't always that way. I mean, for years, I was just focused on my Amazon business, just focused on free up a freelance platform, and kind of doing all these different things is new in the past few years. Where my business partner and I decided to diversify, but we can chat about that. Yeah, I mean, I was born in Massachusetts. My parents were both teachers growing up. I kind of had the itch to be an entrepreneur because my parents always made me pay for anything I wanted, whether it was a video game, a car, a toy, anything. I had to pay for it with allowance or eventually getting jobs. And I kind of used all those initial jobs to gain skills. And I really wanted to work for myself. And when I got to college, I started hustling and really just trying to create a business, and stumbled upon Amazon, which changed my life. But now I live in Denver, Colorado. I'm a big dog guy. I got two dogs. My parents never let me have dogs growing up, so that was one of the first things I did when I became an adult. I have a newborn son that's 6 months old, so if I look tired, it's because I am. I'm definitely in tired dad mode a little bit. But yeah, my wife Quinn, we're foster parents. We've had different teens in the house, and just love the outdoors and everything that Colorado has to offer, whether it's sports or hiking or you name it. Yeah, I'm a pretty simple guy.
Awesome. You are definitely in the dad gauntlet, as I like to call it. That first 6 months is wild. After the first six, is this your first bio kid?
First bio kid, yeah.
Okay, man. If it's any consolation, after the first 6 months, things get noticeably better. From what I hear and my experience with both of our kids, the first 6 months were rough.
The past 2 weeks, it seems to be getting better. Before that, there were days where I woke up and I was like, how am I supposed to function today? I've just been up all night,
No, it's definitely a gauntlet for sure, man. From one dad to another, solidarity. That is quite the journey. So you are into a bunch of different things. It is hard as a podcast host to pick which first question to get into it. You gave me a chronology in your bio, and it started with Amazon. So I'm going to follow your chronology and just ask the Amazon question. When did you get in? And was it an FBA thing? Was it drop shipping? What did you find your success in with Amazon? Because there have been like 4 different distinct chapters for people that were doing Amazon businesses.
Yeah, so I was drop shipping years before it was even called drop shipping. I got in 2008, 2009. I had to be one of the first 1,000 Amazon sellers that were selling stuff other than textbooks, maybe even in the hundreds. And it was pure luck. I was buying and selling people's textbooks and flipping them on Amazon and competing with my school bookstore. And my school sent me a cease and desist letter telling me to knock it off or they would kick me off campus. And I pivoted. I had this Amazon account. I started experimenting with different products and came across toys and baby products that were just big markets that everyone bought. And I mean, now I'm buying all the same stuff that I used to sell 10 plus years ago. So when I found this market, I started reaching out to different manufacturers, even retailers at the time. They didn't know e-commerce. They said I could sell their product on Amazon. They could keep my credit card on file, and they would just ship things to where I told them to. And I would mark the product up and eventually negotiate deals. And this was an amazing business. I mean, it was cash flow positive, extremely profitable. It didn't need an office. This was way, way, way before COVID, when no one, like, working remote and running a business remote was pretty unheard of. So we had a nice thing going from 2008 to 2016. We sold about $25 million. Amazon became harder. We definitely made bad decisions just because we were young entrepreneurs. Stuff like opening up an office and hiring a lot of US people and adding overhead to a business that didn't really need it. But it was a great first experience as an entrepreneur, a quick win, a way to put some money in the bank account, and learned a lot about hiring, and really built my virtual assistant team through the Amazon business that led me to my next venture, a freelance VA marketplace.
Mm. Now, in the rest of the American economy, outside of the insurance industry, the virtual employee, the VA, whether it's Philippines or Pakistan or somewhere in Southeast Asia, that has been a thing for a long time. What's your angle there? How did you get started in the virtual employee? I'm guessing it's basically a quasi staffing firm, right? You're helping with placement and helping people learn how to do that for themselves, perhaps. What's your angle in all that?
So, to back up with the Amazon business, hiring was really hard. College kids were really unreliable. They were drinking on the job, oversleeping shifts. Like, it was an absolute
Yep.
nightmare that drove me crazy. And I was 20. Hiring an adult to work on my business was expensive and pretty scary at the time too. So a buddy of mine introduced me to my first VA, and that really changed my whole mentality on hiring. And we built this VA team to run all aspects of the business. There wasn't a lot of automation in Amazon software back then, so every little thing needed a person behind it. And when Amazon became harder, we still had a great team of really good VAs that I had a good relationship with, that were trained on e-commerce. And I started to offer them to other sellers, because as Amazon was getting harder, more people were learning what being an Amazon seller was. My first few years, if I told someone I was an Amazon seller, they thought I was running a scam. They didn't know what it was. So when I started offering these VAs to different e-commerce sellers, I ended up turning that into a marketplace. So we weren't really a staffing firm. We created a platform where clients could create an account. They could put in a job post. We had pre-vetted VAs on the other end. We were picky on who we let on the platform. We would connect them. We
Mm.
wouldn't manage them. We wouldn't train them. We were just connecting them and letting good people on the platform. And all the billing was through the platform. So again, a really great business model, because very little overhead, can be remote, very cash flow positive. Client pays us before we pay the freelancer, with time in between for any disputes. And we didn't have to manage all these people. All these freelancers and VAs were just billing clients, and we were just making a percentage of every hour worked. So just a great business for number two.
Hmm. Now, everybody that I know that has a VA company has infrastructure that is local to the host country, whether it's the Philippines or somewhere else over there in that part of the world. How are you? How are I'm guessing the company's still running. It looks like. Yeah. How do you guys organize that? Do you have someone who is a local, a native of that country, who is your person on the ground coordinating those efforts, or are you completely remote? Like, you guys run everything from the stateside?
Yeah, so we ran this company for 4 years. We got it to about $12 million a year, and then it was acquired in 2019. So it's still running. It's kind of cool to see a business approach the 10-year mark, because
Mm.
most businesses don't last that long, even though we don't own it anymore. But the breakdown of the marketplace was around 40% Philippines, 40% US, and 20% scattered. Wasn't necessarily by design. We had a lot of just partners and people we knew in the Philippines that referred a lot of people, and we just let the best of the best on the platform. We let in the top 1%, one out of every 100 applicants that we would get. So we would let in people from all over. People could hire US freelancers, Filipino freelancers. I personally hire a lot from the Philippines. Like one of the cool things about FreeUp, we got the 12 million and we sold it. We had no US employees. We had no office. Our entire internal team was 30 Filipino virtual assistants, and we had thousands of freelancers on the platform. But our internal team, the people doing customer service, sales, bookkeeping, you name it, was in the Philippines. And if you look at my portfolio of businesses now, we do have a few US people, but it's 90% plus Philippines.
Hmm. Love that, man. I have never met a country whose people were so consistently a certain way, like culturally very driven. Personal excellence is important to them. They have a lot of pride in their work. But some of the most kind-hearted, deferential, polite people I've ever met, and it's very consistent. It's like there's a stereotype here, a very good stereotype. Is like I don't know what it is about the Filipino people. It's like almost all of them are this kind of personality. I'm sure there's people out there that aren't like that because I mean we're all humans and there's variations across the board. But man, I don't know what it is about the Filipinos, but it's almost like God said, this is where these people are going to be, and this is the sort of work that they're going to have as a national industry, and it seems to work out really well.
Yeah, it's great. Kind of a funny story. So we have a nanny for my kid, and we do a nanny share with my neighbors, and we were interviewing people, and the nanny we ended up hiring was from the Philippines, and she just happened to be the best applicant. It wasn't my choice. Like, I mean, like I liked her, but it wasn't just my choice. My neighbors liked her the best too, and super hardworking. It's been an incredible experience. She was Googling me and realized I'm like semi-famous or whatever in the Philippines, so that was kind of funny. But yeah, everything you said is spot on.
No, I have been through a handful of virtual employees in the Philippines and Pakistan, and again in the Philippines and again in Pakistan. Strangely enough, I definitely think there's a place for that, and I look forward to continuing to explore that in the insurance world where we are. Haven't had the best of luck with the individuals that we've worked with, but I'm definitely open to it again in the future. You know, before we pivot away to the next thing in your journey, for someone who is looking to bring talent into their operation and is considering an offshore team member, do you have any suggestions or best practices for how someone can start to move in that direction successfully and avoid some of the common headaches that you see?
Yeah, so we have a whole company that teaches you how to do it. It's Outsource School. If you go to outsourceschool.com, and it's our exact
Mm.
process for interviewing, onboarding, training, and managing virtual assistants, along with all the SOPs that we give them from customer service to lead generation to getting on podcasts, you name it. And I mean, a big thing that we preach is to focus on the onboarding. That's where a lot of people mess up. You want to set really good expectations because what's common sense for you and me is not common sense for other cultures. And they're going to run into issues. If you've heard horror stories of virtual assistants who their computer breaks or they have personal issues or power interruptions or whatever it is, setting really good expectations and taking that time in between the interview and before their first day to get on the same page and even give them a chance to back out if they don't feel like they can meet your expectations, that's going to solve so many of your problems. It's going to save you thousands of dollars. It's going to save you wasted time. The last thing you want to do is spend a month training someone and then have them not be able to work for 2 months or quit on you or whatever it is. So you want to get in front of that, and the onboarding is the key.
100%. No, so outsourceschool.com. We're going to put that information in the show notes for anybody who's interested in learning more about that. So, Nathan, walk us forward in your journey. You sell the VA company in 2019, and what comes next?
Yeah, so selling the company was crazy. It was the most stressful 6 months of my life by far. Nothing moved quickly. We got a life-changing offer from two really good people that we still have a good relationship with that have become kind of mentors to us. And it kind of allowed us to do whatever we wanted going forward. The original plan was take a year or two off. I didn't think I would see my business partner, Connor. I thought he'd be traveling the world. And then COVID hit 5 months later. So we were in a crazy spot where we had just sold our company. We had money in the bank. We had no business ideas because all we had done for the last 4 years was eat, sleep, breathe, free up. And we were stuck inside like everyone else, watching Netflix, but we didn't have a job or anything to do. So we started brainstorming different business ideas. And the lowest hanging fruit was Outsource School. We had people come to us and said, hey, can you just teach me your hiring system? So we turned it into a membership and created that and launched that. And that kind of bought us time to keep brainstorming other ideas. And we had some bad ones thrown in there that never got to market. But we started thinking, what do we do in our own businesses? What are processes that we're good at that we can just do the same thing for other people? So that's when the idea for bookkeeping came into play, because one of the best decisions we ever made was hiring a bookkeeper from day one of FreeUp. We didn't do that with our Amazon business. We were always behind. We were young. We were immature. We tried doing it ourselves. We wasted a lot of time and money. But with FreeUp, we did it right. We hired that bookkeeper from day one. And not only did that help us make good decisions every single month. But when we went to sell the company, we had 4 years of immaculate books going back to the first day. So we decided, let's start a bookkeeping business for e-commerce sellers, because that's what we were before. And we're not bookkeepers, so we had to hire a bookkeeper, and we hired a controller. And that kind of opened our eyes to, hey, when you start a company, you're not the controller, you're not the operator. Hire that person, put them in place, and build around them. We're good at the building, the process, the strategy, the hiring, and that's what we did. And we ended up launching a second bookkeeping brand, Accounts Balance. Down the line, we did the exact same thing with an SEO business. We hired an operator from day one and built around them. And now we have the mentality to focus on building our personal brands, Connor Gillivan and my personal brand, if you want to follow me on social media, but have all these different B2B businesses that are the exact systems we use that you can just plug into your business. The hiring process from Outsource School, monthly bookkeeping from Accounts Balance, SEO from TrioSEO, and we're just going to continue to build off of that.
So what's the mission? I hear a whole bunch of very interesting business ventures, and you're obviously a driven guy. You mentioned fostering before, so I know you've got a big heart and you're very patient. You are a man of principles. Otherwise, you would never be fostering, because holy crap, what an awful situation for these kids to be in. So to be around that over and over again, it tells me you're emotionally resilient too. So I know that there's got to be some deep convictions. There's got to be some really cool vision and worldview that's driving your efforts here.
Yeah, I mean, the mission, my mission from a business side, is to make entrepreneurship simpler for millions. People who follow me will probably see that all over my content. I'm a big believer that people overcomplicate it. They go for the shiny object syndrome. They're trying to be all over the place and do all these crazy stuff. When for me, finding a good business with a good market, focus on good hiring, good bookkeeping, good finances, and knowing your numbers, and a good marketing and SEO strategy. That's the basics for every business you start, no matter what industry you're in. If you're in insurance, real estate, virtual assistant agency, whatever it is. And so that's kind of my focus from a business side. And then with that, you're able to help a lot of people. One thing I told my wife when we had this conversation when we first started dating is, I'm a firm believer that you have to help yourself first in order to be able to help other people. Like, if I wasn't focused on making free up profitable, we wouldn't have been able to pay out millions of dollars to freelancers throughout the years and create a system that provide a lot of jobs. And the same thing applies for all of our companies now. I want to create a win-win-win where obviously Connor and I have to make money. That's part of business. That's why we do things. But our team relies on us to run a successful business, and they're going to need bonuses and raises over time. And we were able to not only treat our team well, but like when we sold Free Up, we took $500,000 from the sale and gave it to our team in the Philippines, and saw the cars and the houses and the stuff that they were able to buy with those things. And we want to do the same thing in a different way with these companies. I don't know if we'll sell them or not, but really provide a good foundation, a good stable job and income stream for them. And then with that, any company we start, we want to have a great customer service experience. I can't tell you how many clients who struggle with bookkeeping, hated work with bookkeeping companies, got plugged into our service, and all of a sudden they have financial clarity. And that's led them to make more money personally. That's what led them to sell their business and have that life-changing exit. So it's all very in line of being able to help yourself and grow a business. And I have a lot of fun doing it, while also helping everyone else along the way, because it's no fun to be at the top by yourself. You want everyone else to go up with you.
100%. Rising tide lifts all boats. That sort of belief. Thank you, Ronald Reagan. I definitely subscribe to that philosophy as well. One of the things that I always find myself wondering when I come across someone such as yourself, who has a lot of things going on, a lot of plates spinning at the same time, I'm always curious, how do you do it personally? So many people that listen to this podcast, we call them freedom jumpers because they have made their freedom jump, opening a business or transitioning from captive insurance to the independent side of the insurance world. Everybody is trying to be the best version of themselves, or just enjoying where life has taken them if they take their foot off the gas pedal a little bit, if they choose to do so. My question for you is, as a guy who has done several businesses successfully at a high level, you've had a good exit, you've got 3 or 4 things going on right now. How do you practice the disciplines, the behaviors as an individual that allow you to have that much productivity with your 168 hours a week?
Yeah, it's changed. So I hustled in my 20s, like the Amazon business. I was working all the time, free up, working all the time. If a client called me at 9 p.m. on a Friday, Saturday morning, if someone wanted to schedule a podcast on a weekend, I was in. Whatever it took, I was doing it. And I don't know why my wife, I guess girlfriend at the time, didn't break up with me or divorce me, because work always came first. There was no exception. And I think being able to go through that sale has provided me an opportunity that I'm really fortunate to have, where I don't have to do that anymore. I'm retired from all conferences. I turn down any event. You'll never see me at a conference. I'm only interested in running businesses that don't require me to go anywhere or be on someone else's schedule. I don't take calls at night. I don't work weekends. I work out in the middle of the day every day. I just worked out before this. And I'm very, very picky with my time. And I say no a lot more, even though maybe some of those no's would have been a good opportunity for the business. Now, I still enjoy what I'm doing. I still work hard. I put a lot of people in place to fill in the gaps, really hardworking people who have that hustling mentality, so that I don't necessarily have to do it. And putting those operators in place is key, because I couldn't manage 4 different companies at the same time if I wanted to. So I can really rely and count on them to handle the operations and the stuff there. And I can build a marketing team around it. The beauty of Connor and I building what we call HG Media is we use our personal brands to promote all the different companies. So it's not like I need different marketing strategies for each one. We're promoting all of them through our different channels. And when you have a portfolio of businesses, you can do the same thing with billing, for example, or bookkeeping. We can have one bookkeeping system that plugs in the different companies instead of different teams for each company. So it allows kind of an economy of scale where, yeah, you are working on different businesses, but you're doing it together as one. So yeah, a few different parts of that. I think just being a dad and being in my 30s now opposed to my 20s, I definitely just changed my mentality of my time. I'm able to be a lot pickier, and I'm able to focus above the business rather than inside each of the different businesses.
Let me pivot just a second here and ask a more granular question. What are you reading right now? You strike me as the kind of guy who is regularly consuming interesting things, whether it's a book or a journal or a regular newsletter or someone's blog that you're really fond of. What are you into these days?
So I'll probably give you an answer to surprise you. I've taken a little break from business books. I've been reading a lot of fiction. So Taylor Jenkins Reid, the author that wrote like Daisy Jones and the Six and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's how I kind of get away from business and recharge. And that's something I struggled with for years, because if I wasn't working, I was reading business books. I was listening to business podcasts. I was reading business blogs. It just never stopped. So for me, I've kind of taken a step back where not that I know everything, because I don't, and I'm sure I'll go back to it as well, but especially having a kid too, where I want to be able to get away from business. That's kind of been my balancing act, where I always have an audiobook or a book going that's fiction. I love like mysteries and stuff with a twist, things that'll turn my mind off business. So then when I turn my computer on each day, I'm incredibly well rested, incredibly focused. And for whatever reason, that's what's working for me right now. I'm sure if you talk to me in a year or something, that'll be different.
Daisy Jones and the Six. That's a great one. You know, the book and I think it was what, a 6 episode miniseries on Amazon.
Yeah. She's got a
Uh,
bunch of great books. I just read Malibu Rising is a good one. I'm blanking on a bunch of the others, but yeah.
hmm. Now, I'm right there with you on the doing things that unplug. I am born and raised a sci-fi nerd, thanks to my dad, going all the way back to Isaac Asimov from the 1950s. So the escaping and letting your brain chew on something that's completely not work related, I definitely agree. It can be both cathartic, but also incredibly productive for work stuff, because when your brain is actively switching off of work stuff and thinking about something that's completely different, like right brain creative stuff or whatever, you're invigorated. You come back to the table ready to fire off. It's great. I love it. So good word there, man. An interesting pick with Daisy Jones. You know, my wife and I just finished watching that a couple of months ago, and I got to say, the ending was precisely how I hoped it would go. It's definitely one of those series where you get to the end, it's like, oh, there's a payoff
Yeah.
here. The audience is not left hanging. It's satisfying. So good stuff.
Seven Wives or Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is another book of hers that I just finished. Really good.
Oh,
Very popular book.
okay. I'm not familiar with that one. I'll have to put that on my list. Good stuff. So, pivoting back to business here, the the idea of focus, and you've already talked about this a couple of times. You only have 168 hours a week, and as you said, family is important to you. Rest and physical fitness and just wellness in general is important to you. How do you decide what gets your attention and when? How are you prioritizing your focus so that you are making the very best of your efforts and the time that you spend on things?
Yeah, I think prioritizing is my superpower. It's always been something I'm naturally good at, and just kind of keeping a list and adjusting that list. Things slide in, and really, my key to success is the first thing I do every day is the most important thing, whatever it is. And I've been doing that for years, and that can change over time. Like right now, I'm doing some like operating agreements and boring legal stuff that isn't the most fun thing in the world, but it's got to get done. It's probably the most important because we just launched TrioSEO and we got to get that stuff done. Other times it's stuff that's focused around marketing and profitability. I'm able to kind of step away from operations. So usually those aren't highest on the list because I trust my team there. But you can't do everything. There's always going to be more to do. But figuring out what actually has to get done now and what can you do now that's going to push the work to someone else so that they can work on it while I'm working on other stuff. Like the legal stuff is a good example. I'm preparing all this stuff. I'm going to send it over to my lawyer. They're going to spend the next 3 weeks working on it or however long it takes. And that's time I'm going to be working on other things. If I move the lawyer thing down, then they're waiting for me. They can't do anything until I do my side. And there's plenty of examples of that in business too, where someone on my team is waiting for me. I need to do my side of it, move it over to them so that I have everything running in every single business and nothing stopping. And being able to prioritize is a key entrepreneur skill. If you look at a lot of failed entrepreneurs, that they most likely prioritize the wrong things, and making sure that, like, even if not, let's say my kid has an emergency or something in the afternoon, even if I only did the most important thing that morning, you're way ahead of most entrepreneurs out there because they're not doing their days like that.
Absolutely. The snowball effect is a real thing there. I find myself leaning on whatever I don't want to do, and I try to do that first. For me, for the longest time, it's been cold calling. I don't believe in cold calling as a core piece of our business. I think there's a lot of other things that I do better, but I know that it's important and it's an element that we have to do. So what am I put myself there? It's blocked on my calendar, and my team knows that James is dialing during this hour. And it's usually like 9 to 10 a.m. or 10 to 11 or something like that. Because if I don't do it early in the day, it ain't going to happen. And that's very important activity. So, man, spot on with your answer. I feel like we're kindred spirits on these things.
Yeah.
As we come to nearing the end of the episode here, is there anything that you want to talk about? Anything that you find interesting or compelling that we haven't talked about yet?
Yeah, I mean, here's kind of the hard truth. No entrepreneurs know what they're doing. Even like past success does not mean future success. Like just because I sold a company,
Yeah.
that could be the last successful company I ever had. Like who knows? Things change. Like things that used to work stop working. And just a big part of being an entrepreneur is testing and trying things and going against the grain. When I was selling on Amazon, no one else was doing it. It was a big experiment that happened to work. And once everyone was selling on Amazon and everyone was buying the same courses, I was getting out of that as quick as possible. And even with FreeUp, when I started it, there weren't that many VA agencies or marketplaces or anything like that. Now there's a ton of them. Not many entrepreneurs I know are starting bookkeeping businesses. And even to kind of go on the testing, we built this social media team. I'm not a social media expert. Neither is my business partner. There's a lot of testing going on. And with that comes things that don't work, wasted time, wasted money. But it's kind of like that research and development is where a lot of people don't invest enough time and energy into because you never know what you're going to come across that's going to move the needle. And that's where we spend a lot of our time. We put thousands of dollars every single month into just trying things to see what's working. And then you double down on what's working. You make tweaks to what's not, or you drop what's not working, and don't kind of lose sight of that. No one has it all figured out. And even if they do, something could happen tomorrow that changes everything. So you got to continue to be testing and testing and testing and trying stuff.
Test and test and test again. Like Thomas Edison said with his famous quote, I haven't failed 1,000 times. I just found 999 ways that don't work. And it's like, okay, rewiring your brain. Ryan Holiday is an author. I don't know if you've read any of his stuff. The obstacle is the way and ego is the enemy and some other books that he's famous for. But the whole concept of rethinking failure and reframing the whole narrative around failure to make it a positive thing takes a lot of work, man. It is not something that comes natural for anybody, I don't think. But how have you handled the emotional toll of being an early adopter, being someone who is leaning forward and trying hard? Because you're going to have a lot of failure, like you said. How have you dealt with the emotional and the metaphysical side of being a business owner and just a person of high achievement in general?
Yeah, I mean, failing sucks, right? I still have scars from the Amazon business where we bought an office, then we bought a bigger office for no reason. We ended up having to lay off our entire staff, super emotional. And then we had to break the lease and pay all these fees. And we had done construction to it that was done poorly. So we had to pay for that to get fixed. And I mean, the construction is one thing, but laying off these people that depended on us and feeling like we let them down and drove the business into the ground, like that sticks with you. And that makes the wins that much sweeter. When we sold FreeUp, that was kind of like our redemption from the Amazon days. So failure still hurts. Like there's plenty of frustrating times. I think my mentality has changed where it, like, I know things will fail. Like I'm opening up a bunch of businesses and most businesses fail. So chances are I'm going to start a business that's not going to work. And I kind of have just accepted that that's going to happen at some point. But you just do everything possible to avoid that. You focus on what you can control. You think of other people besides you because, like, for my side, if one of my businesses fail, like, I'm okay. My life doesn't change that much if that happens, but other people will, whether it's the clients, your team, stuff like that. So trying to put stuff in perspective, give yourself a little bit of grace and continue to try new things because, like, we never would have had FreeUp without the Amazon failure. So in a way, things like that will work out in ways that you don't think of at the time.
Love it, man. That's a good word. Go ahead and promote whatever you want to promote other than, what we talked about already with Outsource School earlier in the episode. As we start to land the plane here, what do you want people to do as far as action after this episode? Is there a blog or anything else that you want to send them to for next steps?
Find me on social media, Nathan Hirsch. Whatever your platform is, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, you name it, connect with me. Check out some of my content, see if you like it. You can check out any of my companies too, but I try to make entrepreneurship as simple as possible in my content. Feedback's always welcome. And I love just connecting and networking with other entrepreneurs. So hopefully I'll see you on social media.
No, for sure. I have definitely enjoyed the stuff that I've seen from you in the last few months. And hopefully this is the first in-person interaction of many. So I think this is probably a great place to stop our conversation here. It seems like we've got a little bow on top for this piece of it. Nathan, thanks so much for your time today. And folks, check him out on social, Nathan Hirsch. It's Hirsch. And that's another episode of the Agency Freedom Podcast. Make it a great day, boys and girls. We'll talk to you again real soon. Y'all take care.